Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. It's a real pleasure of mine tonight to introduce you again to Jennifer Beale, who is a consummate networker, a wonderful event organizer, a fascinating entrepreneur, and a wonderful lady. And she's got a big event coming up in 2 weeks. So we thought we'd connect up and hear a little bit about it, because it's the first time, I think, in a while that we've been able to do real live events. And Jennifer's big summer networking bashes were some of the biggest and best events to go to if you wanted to be a networker in an entrepreneurial business a couple of years ago. And she's got another one coming up on August the 10th, I believe it is. Is that correct, Ms. Jennifer?
Yeah, it is. And thank you, Brian, for inviting me in. And good evening, everybody. It's great to be here with you.
So is this the first in real life one you've done in a couple of years, or
in 3 years? Yeah, in 3 years, if you can believe it.
I used to do these at an Ontario place, and I love them. Tell us where the location is and what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, this year, we used to do them at Ontario Place, and they were like 1,000 people, which was wonderful. This year, it'll be about 120 people. We have a private bar and covered patio, and it's near Progress Avenue and the 401. We're in a restaurant there, and we've taken the space. We're going to have people coming in. I'm excited like you can't believe, because 3 years is a long time to go without people live, and so it'd be like a family reunion.
And are there tickets left? Can I come?
You are welcome to come. Yeah, I think we have like about 10 tickets still available. So if anybody does want to come, they better grab one fast.
So how do people get a ticket, contact you if they're interested?
Oh, they can go to summernetworkingbash.com.
Summernetworkingbash.com.
And they can find all the details there.
Fantastic. And you also do...
And they can come and meet me, and they can come and see you as well live, Brian. That's out in Scarborough. Not necessarily.
You do programs during the day as well, but is that going to be virtual or what?
Yeah, we're doing something virtual during the day. I'm doing something that's really fun. I heard from people, they said they didn't like the virtual networking because they couldn't find the people they wanted. It was just too much effort not finding people. And I love connecting people. So we're doing a matchmaking event where people register, they tell me who they want to meet, and then I match you up and make sure that you meet those people during that. And there'll be some sharing as well to get people into a really nice space where they're connecting. And, things are going to happen, and they can form collaborations, find clients, referral partners. It'll be great. So that's during the day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern.
Now, you've been doing this networking event for numerous years. Tell us why. What's the benefit of it?
I've been doing it for 18. Because when I started my business, the only way I could get clients was through networking. And every August, everybody kind of shut it down and stopped doing it. And I was frustrated because I don't have a cottage. I'm stuck in the city. And so I thought I'll create the event. And my first one was actually in a restaurant similar to what we're doing this year. And we sold out. We had 250 people that year. We sold out in that first one. And then I just felt compelled to keep doing the networking events. But for me, I also go to other people's events. And like the big thing about networking, it's so important for us, especially after having 2 years of kind of being locked down and not having the connections that we needed. So, there's many reasons why we want to do it. Visibility. You want visibility? Well, go out and meet people and get them to like you. They'll talk about you. You'll get greater visibility than you'll ever get on social media. And then there's some health benefits for our wellness. We need people, like they find like people can become chronically ill. They can become irritable, angry, depressed when they're disconnected from people for too long. And so you go out and you become connected with people who care about you, and you start being calm and more tolerant and more productive, more focused. So there's some health benefits to being connected as well. We really need it. And you don't want to be alone in business. That's just a bad idea, to be alone in business for too long, because you can start doubting yourself, and that just spirals off into all kinds of crazy things. But I think more than anything was that's a great way to get clients, to get business, to find deals, to find opportunities. Get out there and talk to people. Find out what they're doing. Find where you fit. Bring people into what you're doing.
Good for business. Good for your own personal attitude, social life. Good for health, and something to do when you're not going to a cottage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like a lot of good reasons. Remind us the website that people should go to.
Summernetworkingbash.com.
And it's on August the 10th?
Wednesday, August the 10th. 2 events. You can come and get matchmaked between 10 and 2. You can come out live if you want out in Scarborough at between 4 and 7. And we'll feed
between
you.
4 and 7 in Scarborough. Sounds like a lot of fun. And you know, your events in the past, you've been kind enough to ask me to speak at some of your events in the past, both at the sessions during the day as well as during your networking event. I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of different people, some connections that I, you know, still keep up today. Lots of people that I've met at your events that I've invited on my show to interview. You get a really high caliber, you know, interesting group of people that are a lot of fun, and people that you do want to interact with and network with and make friends with and do business with. And so I recommend the Summer Networking Bash that Jennifer Beale runs to anyone that is at all interested. And hopefully you'll be, you know, oversubscribed by 100 or 200 or 300 people, and that'll create the big problem. You'll have to go back to Ontario Place next year.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you for that.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Jennifer Beale. And we're going to talk about, you know, about networking and about how to do it well, and some of the courses and mentorship that she does for people on how to network. And she sends out newsletters on a fairly regular basis about different networking events that are going on. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about a session she did yesterday about what to do in anticipation of a recession, how to run a business in a recession. And so we've got a couple of interesting topics that we're going to be dealing with over the course of the next couple of minutes with Jennifer Beale. We're going to be back in just 2 minutes on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960 with Jennifer Beale. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. My guest tonight is Jennifer Beale. She is that super connector, that consummate networker that just seems to know everybody. And I've had the pleasure of having her on my show before. And I wanted to invite her back for a couple of reasons. Number one, she's got this big event, the Summer Networking Bash, that's happening on August the 10th, that is back for the first time in a couple of years, real life and in person. And so that's an event if you're interested in networking and meeting new people, creating business, good for entrepreneurs. It's a great event and I recommend it. And her website is summernetworkingbash.com that you can go to. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about networking, about connecting with people, because Jennifer, you really are a consummate networker and a super connector. Tell me, Jennifer, a little bit about some of the work you do with people on how to network, because some people hate it. And they think it's a job and it's not fun and they don't want to do it. And you know, they go to a networking bash or something or other, and they either stand in the corner and don't meet anybody, or they just collect a whole bunch of business cards and then don't do anything with it. So when you're talking,
we call those collectors, not connectors.
Exactly.
You're right. And I think it's important to talk about why people don't like networking. And, you know, some of it is, you know, people like, they just feel it's kind of a like dirty or slimy kind of thing. And, you know, they're going in there and they're talking about how great they are to everybody else, and that feels uncomfortable. And then, you know, maybe they meet people and they have a connection of some kind, and the person says, yeah, call me, you know, we can do some stuff. And then they call them and people don't respond to them. And then they're chasing them. And then, you know, and that doesn't feel good. And people just go like, what is going on? Like, you know, why isn't this working for me? I can feel uncomfortable. And you touch on another part too, that, you know, a lot of people are introverts. Some people are shy, and they would kind of back away from it and maybe stand in a corner being there because, you know, it's just awkward for them. And if you knew me 20 years ago, you know, I was just like that. Very
You're kidding. You were a shy person?
I was very socially awkward. The thought of going into a room with strangers petrified me. And I joined a group and I got mentored, and, you know, Donna Messer, she was one of my mentors, and I learned how to do it. And I would just keep going back to the group week after week after week, and got to know people, and then started going to other events, and, you know, just got wired into the whole thing. And the next thing you know, I'm like producing an event with 1,000 people. It's kind of crazy, but if I can change, you know, if I can change and shift and do things, people can too. There's a lot of it simply skill and being a real human being. I think that's what people want. They want to be able to be who they really are. They want to be with people who are being who they really are. And that's when you start connecting with people.
How do you find a real human being, or who you are as a real human being?
I think we just need to be who we really are and go in there. And, you know, before we actually even show up, just get ourselves centered and grounded and go in there. I think being clear on an intention of why we're there. You know, why are you there? Are you just there to meet people and socialize? Or you meet there, you know, do you want something to come from it? I go to find people. I don't go there to meet people. I go there to find people. I know who I want to meet and find. And then I know I want to book appointments with people. So I'm there, I have something to do there. So I'm not just going to socialize and spend a lot of time with people and walk out after and say, well, I have all these cards, I'm not doing anything with them. That would be one. And two is I think people think you need to go and have like this kind of pitch thing, like the Dragon's Den, you go in and you pitch your business. But it's really about conversations.
Yeah.
And if everybody knows how to have a conversation. We have friends, we have family, we talk with people, and that's what you do when you go to these events. Just have a conversation, ask people some questions. I'll ask you some questions.
I do think that your comment about intention is really critically important. A lot of people just go to these events and they just go. You got to plan it out like any kind of a presentation or a meeting. I had some people that recommended to me, and I try to follow it. That you try to find out who is coming to an event. There's obviously, usually either an event list or an attendee list, or people have posted on social media that they're attending or something like that. And searching out some of the people on LinkedIn and finding out, what they're all about and who they're all about. And the best would be if you actually have some people that you'd like to meet, messaging them and saying, I'm looking forward to meeting you, or I'd enjoy, connecting with you or something like that. So that's number one, is researching some of the people and trying to find and reach out to them ahead of time and create a sense of intention that not only you're going to be there, but that you want to meet someone there.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And that would guide your conversation so well, like, doing that, Brian. That's an excellent idea. Then you know what to say to somebody when you can ask the host, where is so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? Can you introduce me to them? As well. So
I think that's really helpful. And that's sort of the proactive. Some people don't find it very comfortable to be that proactive. And so a sort of a less aggressive or a less intentional way of doing it would be to just post on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that you're going to the event, and state who you would like to meet so that other people might see it. And you can do that either on your own post or do it on, a share of your post announcing the event. But, my name is Brian Crombie, and I'm going to go to Jennifer Beale's Summer Networking Bash. And I really want to, meet some people that have got something to say and want to be on my radio show. And so if you've got a topic that you think is deserving of a wider audience and you want to be on my show, please say hello to me and talk to me at Jennifer Beale's announcement at her event. You say something like that on LinkedIn or Facebook, it's amazing how many people will read it and then actually come up to you. And if not, message you back saying, I've got an idea. I want to meet you. Can we meet at 5:30 by the bar or something like that? And so
you are a consummate connector as well. I call you a super connector. Like, you're connected all over the world, and you're connected over different areas as well. It's not just business, but you've been in entertainment and sports and politics, etc. And you did research on all of this, and you were looking at people and the relationships that they were having. What did you discover when in your PhD, when you were working on your thesis?
Well, it wasn't a PhD. It was a DBA, a doctorate in business. So I'm not, and I
still call you Dr. Crombie?
You still get to call me Dr. Crombie, but not yet, because I haven't finished. I'm embarrassed that I've been doing the research. I've been writing the thesis. And Jennifer, thank you for mentioning that, but I haven't finished. But, let me, since you asked, I'll tell you a little bit of the academic thinking about this. Academics think there's three different types of social capital. Social capital is sort of the benefit one gets from networking, interacting with others. One is called bonding social capital, another is bridging, and the third is linking. Bonding would be those close person relationships you develop with people that you know really well, or that are in your functional area, that are in your family or in your company. Bridging would be people that are different than you, in a different functional area, or in a different company, or in a different sector of society, like a bank or someone that's in engineering or something like that. Linking would be with someone that's really in a different, a really different segment of society. For an example, some people would think you link with a government person. That might be only someone you would need in a really emergency time or a time of stress. So it's a far longer bridge, and it's a link to sort of a different segment of society than you would normally interact with. A lot of studies have been done that show that if you just want to get something done and implement something, bonding is the key. It's a tight team that knows each other, works well together, and gets things done. But if you're confronted with a challenging economy or a new idea or a change or something like that, it's bridging that ends up being more important, because that's where new ideas, new resources, new opportunities come from. And then in a real emergency, linking ends up being critical, because that's when you need to reach out to a banker, reach out to the government, reach out to your minister or your rabbi or your priest. Like it's those critical times, and that you've got to develop those relationships ahead of time.
Before
You can't
need
wait
them.
till you need those relationships to develop them. And the bonuses that people make in business, like there's been studies that have been done on bankers. The bankers that have the most bridging relationships make substantially more bonuses than the ones that have just the bonding relationships. People that have those bridging relationships get promoted. If you want to be successful in politics, you got to have those kinds of relationships. And the best people to connect with are those super connectors in life, because once you connect with a super connector that's in a different group, you end up being exposed to and accessing that individual's whole connection group. And so I think that, taking a step back and thinking about some of your relationships, some of your connections, there's no question you still got to have for your family and your friends and that tight, group that would be your bonding relationships, because, that's how you get things done. But thinking about those bridging or linking relationships and keeping in touch with them, meeting them, I interviewed Brian Mulroney, believe it or not, former Prime Minister of Canada. He had a call list of minimum of 10 people a day that he called. And he had this list on a piece of paper, because that was before we had, notepads or phones and things like that. When he had a break in the action, he would call people. And he would call people on birthdays or anniversaries, or if they published an article in the newspaper, or he just wanted to call them and connect up with them. And it would be people that he just wanted to reach out and touch. And he did that his whole business career and his whole political career. And he was known as being that kind of person that would keep in touch with people. Well, that was a lot more difficult to do a generation ago. Today, with LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, it's really easy to do that. And you don't just connect with people on their birthday and when they get 300 or 400 or 500 messages. Connect up with them when they post something interesting. Connect up with them, particularly if they write an article or they get a promotion or some other interesting event. Or I find out one of the best ways to connect up with people is if it's on a date that you remember doing something fun with them and reminding them of that something fun that you did. But keeping that connection up. And I got to tell you, one of the best ways to do it is to get off of social media and send someone a card or a postcard. Actually use snail and say thank you, or I appreciate it, or whatever.
Yeah. This is great input and great advice. And I like that, the bonding, the bridging, and the linking, and to be always keeping people, like when we're meeting people, thinking, would they be a bond? Would they be a bridge? Would they be a link potentially? And exploring that further with people and building up a large network. We want to have large networks of people around us for our well-being.
Well, and I think that networking shouldn't be work. It should be something enjoyable. And that's why I actually like this academic concept of social capital. And it may be a little bit too academic for some people, but the idea of it being like capital, which means, you think about a bank account. If you take more out of it than you put in, you'll go down to zero and you'll be in deficit.
Great analogy.
Right?
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
So social capital is something that you've got to invest in. And hopefully if you take out less than you put in, your social capital will grow. And that's why the idea of pay it forward, or do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or, whatever the concept is that you want to believe in, the more you do for others, the better. And you will get some benefit out of it. But if you don't expect benefit out of it all the time, if it's not reciprocity such that you think that I immediately need to get some benefit, you're a lot better off. So, go out and I had this one person who told me, Jennifer, that the best way that they could cement a relationship and actually help people was to, when you met them at an event or at something, say, how can I help you? What is it that I could do to help you? Is there someone that, you are trying to meet that maybe I know that I could introduce you to? And you do something good, helpful, beneficial to someone else.
Mhm.
you'll get some benefit back in the future for sure. And you know what, even if you don't, great, you've helped someone.
Even
else.
if you don't, I mean, it makes us feel good to be able to do it as well. You know, Adam Grant wrote a really great book called Givers and Takers. And he mentions in the book that the most successful people in business or in their career are givers.
Mhm.
And you want to know who the least successful people are in business? They're also givers. And so he differentiates, there's two different types of givers. There are givers who are doormats, and they give and give and give and give, but they never are able to receive. And so they miss out on a lot of opportunities. And then there are givers who give without it impacting them negatively or taking away from what they want to be accomplishing. And so he mentions one person in the book who he would do anything for anybody if it took 5 minutes or less. He could do that for people, and he would agree on that. And so what we agree to and what we don't agree to becomes really important in all of this. But the key becomes we want to be giving to other people all the time. As you said, it's good for our well-being. It's good for other people. And we are social beings and we need it. And the neuroscientists prove it too. It'll make us more calm, more tolerant, more productive in what we're doing, more successful, according to the research that Adam Grant found.
Well, you know, I think that there's a lot of truths in some of the old books that were written like 2,000 years ago, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
It may be a religious statement, but it's a pretty just good practical statement as well for life.
I think every religion has that in it. That same statement said somehow, some way, and it's good to carry with us.
I think you're right. You know, I think that some of the other things that you do that I think are really critically important. You know, every single time I've met you, you've introduced me to somebody, and I don't know whether you just do that naturally or whether you think about it ahead time. But it's almost as if it is an automatic response that you have that you're introducing people to other people, and I think that that's a real skill. And when you've been kind enough to do that, you do it in a way that builds me up and makes the other person actually want to meet with me. And I love that about you. And it's a real skill. Is that something that you just do naturally, or is that something you do intentionally, or is that something that you were told to do?
Oh, probably all of the above, but I do. I'm a consummate connector. And so when I meet people and they tell me, what I always discover is what they want. And once I know what somebody wants, then I can go, and I really believe that anything you want, the only thing standing between you and that goal or that thing is people. Somebody right now already has access to it. And if I can help people on their journey to directly, I will. You know, if I'm the person that can open the door for them, fine. And if I meet with somebody and I'm not the direct person for them, I always help them on their journey by introducing them to somebody else and say, you know what, I can't really help you, but maybe this person can. And I like to look at everybody in this world as being on a journey somewhere. We have these longings and these ambitions that they want. And so I see it, just my role is maybe linking or connecting is always that when I meet somebody, I want to help them on their journey.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, maybe directly, maybe indirectly. And so, yes, I am, when I meet somebody and as soon as I know what they want and who they want to meet, my brain just goes, who do I know? Who do I know? Who do I know? And, you know, it helps to know a lot of people and I remember people.
Well, you know, one of the things that I talk about in the talk that I do about the 10 powers of co, you may remember you were kind enough to ask me to do it at one of your events in the past, is I talk about coincidences and the power of coincidences. And Einstein said, coincidences are God's way of staying silent. And, you know, I don't know whether that's true that God has anything involved, but it's interesting that just by coincidentally meeting somebody, and I think that's frankly how we met, just by bumping into someone at an event.
We were connected by somebody, actually.
Yeah.
I remember that. Somebody said, Jennifer, you must meet Brian. And then we had a breakfast and we came together.
But you do end up meeting people just by coincidence sometimes. And and they end up being incredibly good friendships or relationships or business opportunities or whatnot. And so be open to those coincidences in life. You know, there's a great book called The Alchemist that talks about it being the omens in life, that it's an omen of who you're going to end up meeting and wanting to do something. One of the people I interviewed for my thesis was a consummate networker. And she was interested because she woke up every day and she said, I wonder who's going to be my next best friend of the day. And every day she wanted to formulate a new friendship and a friendship that would become really strong. And I think that's a great attitude, that every day
It is.
you can meet a really good new friend. Anyway, we're going to take another break for some messages and be back more with Jennifer Beale in just 2 minutes. And we're going to talk a little bit about a session that she did just yesterday on how to anticipate a recession or a bad economic time and what to do about it, how to prepare for it. We're going to be back in just 2 minutes with Jennifer Beale on the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with Jennifer Beale, who runs a bunch of different things that are all about mentorship and networking, coaching, events, etc. She's got a big event coming up August the 10th. It's her summer networking bash. There's only a couple of tickets left, so if you want to go, you got to make sure that you get a ticket. And the website, Jennifer, is summernetworkingbash.com. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's good. And then, in all your other events and coaching and mentorship and stuff like that, is there a website that you should recommend to people that they go to connect up with you?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, it's Jennifer Beale, Unleash PR. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best place.
LinkedIn is the best place to reach out to you. Okay.
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn.
I was really interested, Jennifer, that you were kind enough to invite me, and I was terribly disappointed that I couldn't make it to an event you had yesterday about dealing with a recession. Tell me a little bit about your guest and what the topics were that you talked about, if you could.
Yeah, my guest was Leanne Monahan, who is a serial entrepreneur in Ontario. And she started her businesses in, usually in poor economic conditions, and she's been very successful. So she came on to talk with people because I think right now we need some encouraging words from it. There's just so much going on in the world and it can bring us down. And we've also, we've been through the whole world being shut down and starting to reopen, but there seems to be all these things that are coming up. She said yesterday that before the pandemic, 1 in 5 people had unmanageable anxiety. She said during the pandemic, two out of 5 people had unmanageable anxiety. And right now it's 3 out of 5 people, that 60% of the population has unmanageable anxiety. Well, when you have unmanageable anxiety, you can't go and you can't, function well in life. You've got to go and tend to that and discover ways that you can calm down. And so we were talking about all of this right now, what's going on with people, what they can do about it. And the key thing that she said is that entrepreneurs always have a role in every economy. So right now, regardless of what's going on, entrepreneurs have that role, and we need to hold our dreams and our aspirations, and we need to keep going together, and we need to keep developing and building to keep the economy going. And the way she said to do that wasn't so much in the striving and being driven and pushing yourself more and trying harder. She said that the way to actually do that is to renew yourself constantly and your mindset. And that we can never outperform our self-image. And so right now we need to be tending to our self-image.
Really, that's interesting that we can never outperform our self-image. So how does one renew yourself?
Okay, well, she said it's like a butterfly. Like a caterpillar goes into the pupa and it's, when
so
it's
we'll have to find our own cocoon?
Well, you need to go through some transformation. And it could feel like that. But did you know that actually a pupa, when it goes into that cocoon for a couple of weeks, it's kind of like all gooey and mucky and nothing really, it's just gooey. And then it transforms and it has this big struggle out of getting out of that cocoon. And it must go through that. And when it emerges, it's totally different, new self-image. And it's, beautiful and comes out and off it goes into this new place as a new version of itself. Same thing. It's the same being, but it's a new version of itself. So she likened it to that. And what we need to do is we need to become aware of what we're thinking, the messages that we're telling ourselves. She gave the example of a real estate agent. Somebody recently, one of their clients got caught in the real estate bubble and just kind of blew up. The real estate agent started saying, I'm a terrible real estate agent. Look what I've done. It's all my fault. And she said, whoa, 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 whoa. That's external. That's not who you are. And she said she needed to become aware of how she was talking to herself. And then she needed to really question that. Is that true? And this realtor had just won an award and couldn't accept the award because they felt that they were such a poor real estate agent now because of economic conditions. So anyhow, she worked with her. She got her question that, and then you need to come up with the real message, the truth. What's the truth about this? And you need to hold that. And we need to do it with people as well. We shouldn't be alone in trying to do all of this, but there's other practices people can have, like meditation, prayer, affirmations. There's a lot of things that people can do themselves individually, and then hanging out with really exceptional people. And don't lose sight of those extraordinary goals you want. Not now. Now's not the time. She said this fascinating. During the pandemic in the United States, did you know there were 2,251,000 new millionaires that were created?
Really? That's fascinating. New millionaires.
More new millionaires since the Great Depression, during the pandemic when the world was shut down. So there's opportunities right now, and people may need to transform and step into this new version of themselves to be able to take advantage of those, to move in and take those, but don't lose sight of who you are and where you're going and what you want, and keep those exceptional, extraordinary goals top of
Well, it's interesting because I've done a little bit of research on this as well, Jennifer, as part of my DBA, because I was doing about social capital in tough financial times of financial duress. And, people have an automatic reaction in a tough time to hunker down and close in and just protect themselves and try to wait things out. And those are the people that they may survive, but they don't survive well. And it's probably those people that have got the anxiety that you're describing, or she described. More people have made intergenerational wealth in tough times than at any other time in history. And so when you go back to some of the big family fortunes, the big fortunes that have been made, most of them were actually started in a tough economic time. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because when everyone is buying, psychologically, it's easy to buy, but the prices are high and you can't make a lot of money. It's when things are down and not everyone is buying that you end up being a contrarian, find that great opportunity and buy or invest or acquire or start a business or whatever it is you're going to do that ends up being far more successful. And it's a psychological reality that when everyone's buying, it's sort of psychologically easier to buy. When everyone's selling, it's psychologically easier to sell. But the truth is, we should be buying when things are low and selling when things are high. So we should be doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing. But that's really psychologically very difficult for people to do. And so, the real estate market is one thing that everyone's worried about. It's down a little bit. Some people think it's going to come down more. And that worries a lot of people, but it actually excites some people, because some people think, you know what, either now or coming up in the future is going to be the best time in the last 20 years to actually buy and to trade up, because the difference between where you are and where you want to be is going to be the lowest differential that it's going to be. Stock market is down about 20%. Tech market is down about 35%. So
everything's on sale.
Everything is on sale. That's a great attitude. Attitude. And so, I do think that you've got to change your attitude from, it's a disaster to, you know what, this is creating an opportunity potentially.
And this really, really lends itself into networking and connecting with people. You want to right now be surrounding yourself with people who are speaking like you are, Brian, encouraging, seeing the opportunities, raising each other up. And so, finding a network or building a network and finding those connections that are seeing things the same way is an easy way for us to start shifting who we are and becoming this new version of ourselves who can, buy, invest right now and buy things that are on sale and take advantage of the opportunities.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why the session that you did is very helpful for people to start thinking ahead. I interviewed a gentleman 2 days ago on my Monday night show that was talking about companies, governments, people need to be thinking about what they're going to do if and when there is a recession, and think ahead and plan ahead, because when the recession's there, it's too late to plan to how to, save money or spend money or whatever it is that you're going to do productively. And maybe in the pandemic, we couldn't do that because we didn't sort of know what was coming. But even those people that right away, as soon as the pandemic started, they thought about, shifting their strategy and doing what they could to take advantage of that tough economic time, created the 2 million plus, millionaires that you described. But I do think, there's a good chance, the World Bank actually says there's 0% chance we won't enter into a recession. So there's a good chance that there's going to be a tough economic time, coming up. Unemployment is still at an all-time low. What should happen in a recession is that unemployment goes up. I'm not looking forward to that, but it's something that, we've got to anticipate. And so what people typically think about is that they should go a little bit more into cash. They should cut their expenses a little bit, and they should get ready for that tough economic time. But that there's going to be, as you say, buying opportunities available. And so get prepared for that. And then I think the other thing that, someone recommended to me, which I loved, was you got to plan out what you would do if you either lost your job or won the lottery. Because, if you all of a sudden had some time free, you should know what you want to do. You shouldn't just be sitting at home stewing. And what this person did is they planned ahead that they wanted to do this trek through northern Spain. I can't remember what it's called, but this very famous, trek, the Campo do something or other in northern Spain. And, bought the guidebook and bought the hiking boots and planned it out. And then in a tough economic time in 2009, this individual lost his job. And instead of stewing, he sent out a bunch of resumes and he headed off to Spain. And he went on this trip that he had planned for a long time. And it ended up being one of the best things in his life, such that he could actually be like that butterfly that you described, that caterpillar that didn't crawl into a cocoon. What he did is he traveled the world and went on this spiritual, athletic, wonderful journey through northern Spain. And he came back a new person and ended up getting a far better job. And his attitude was positive about the whole thing. And you think about, being laid off or losing your job. That's a great idea. Plan ahead.
That is a great idea. And, again, it goes back to this planning ahead, figuring out where things are going, looking ahead, playing the movie forward, and being creative. And one of the antidotes I discovered during the pandemic was my antidote to any fear was to be creative. And during that time, I was very creative, created a couple of business clubs. I was out there helping people all the time and finding people, making more connections, big transformation from where I was. I would encourage everybody to be, stay in that place of creativity and imagination and wonder, and hang out with people that are also doing that as well. I mean, we can change the world right now in such amazing ways.
Creativity, imagination, and wonder. How do you stay in a world of creativity, imagination, and wonder? You yourself personally, what do you do to stay in that kind of a world?
Yeah, well, a big part of it is the people that I hang out with. And the other is the hobbies I have. I'm a gardener. So for me, going out in my garden, that's where I have my solitude, and I make things beautiful. And the other thing that I've been
doing. You come over to my house, I need some help badly.
With your garden?
All my flowers die.
I'll connect you to a good landscaping company, okay?
I travel.
But, the other thing I started doing about 3 years ago is I started getting up when the sun was rising, and I'd head down. I live near a beach, so I walk the beach as the sun is rising. I've been doing it every morning for 3 years. And it's a wonderful time to just think and wonder and enjoy beauty and calm and quiet. That's how I start my day. I think how we start our day is critical to how the rest of the day will unfold. And so being very intentional about that, creating some kind of ritual when you get up in the morning that you do every single morning that puts you in a state of, this is how my day is going to be. And it continues off that way. If we get up crazy fast, confused, running around, dashing around, our whole day is probably going to be like that. So it's, being intentional how you want your day to be and starting to bring things in. And that's how I keep my creativity. I talk with very creative people. I think all the time. I contemplate. I write things. I join clubs. I belong to organizations where I belong to the top thought leader organization in the world. I'm surrounded by brilliant minds. Lots of them are academic. Like, these people are like big thinkers. Just being around them changes me. I love it. And so finding those places where you can belong.
You know, when I was
wanna
in
belong
camp,
somewhere.
I went to a church camp, and so I'm going to make another religious comment. I apologize in advance if anyone doesn't want me to, but we used to say a line, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it." And whenever I see a sunrise, whenever I see a beautiful day, for some reason that line comes back to me. And maybe I should do it every day rather than just when it comes into my mind. But it is so powerful to just be glad, to be joyful, to thank whoever for a glorious day. And so
There's
I think
something
that
in us
idea
that
of,
wants to create. We are like compelled to create. We need to create. And when we create, we are fulfilled. And I think everybody needs to find ways to do that in every area of their life, not just in the garden. But I create all the time with other people. I create connections, I create opportunities, I come up with ideas and strategies. You know, I create in just how I do it in my community, you know, and bringing it all together, my career and my calling and my creativity and my community. I just bring them all together and find ways to do it. It just becomes practice. You know, if you ever read the book Mastery, you just do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, but you don't do it to get anywhere. You do it for the enjoyment of doing the practice. And so I have some of those practices that lead to creativity.
Jennifer, remind us what the website is if people want to buy tickets to your big event.
Come out and get connected. Don't hunker down. Come on out, get connected and meet some fabulous people on Wednesday, August the 10th. If you're stuck in the city, you don't have a cottage, we'd love to have you. It is summernetworkingbash.com. There's going to be over 100 of us getting together into space where we're going to help each other find referral partners, collaboration.
And besides,
and
Jennifer
clients.
Beale and Brian Crombie are going to be there.
Yeah, come
Fantastic.
hang out with us.
We're going to take a break and come back in just 2 minutes with some concluding comments. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I've had a lot of fun this evening chatting with Jennifer Beale, who is a consummate networker, a super connector, a wonderful entrepreneur and lady who has got a big event coming up August 10th, the Summer Networking Bash at summernetworkingbash.com. And for any of you that have gone to those events in the past, you'll remember it is some of the best networking events, fun events in the summer. She hasn't had one in a couple of years because of COVID, but she's got her first big live event coming back again in just 2 weeks, August the 10th. And if you haven't got a ticket, you check it out at summernetworkingbash.com. Jennifer, you've been really inspirational. Thank you so much for your words. Do you have any final thoughts about our conversation, about what guidance you can provide to people?
Yeah. You know, I say to everybody, stay connected, find great people, hang out with them, ask for help. Always be willing to ask people for help because they want to help you. Nothing will connect you greater to another person than if you're asking for help. And watch for other people that need help too and be willing to help them. Little things that you can do to make their life easier. And, you know, we're going to get through this time just fine. You know, we're going to come together and we're going to get through this. And so bring people into your circle and go and join other people's circles. And you can continue on in your path of creating a rewarding life for yourself and your family and your friends.
And check out Jennifer Beale on LinkedIn, connect up with her. And for sure, at some point in time in the future, that connection is going to end up being helpful. Do something for Jennifer, introduce her to some of your people, pay it forward. And then undoubtedly, at some point in time in the future, that connection that you've made with Jennifer or other people like Jennifer is going to end up being helpful to you. And so I think it's a great idea. You always have to create those relationships, those connections before you ever ask something from that network that you've got before you need them. So now's the time to build it if you haven't built it already. And if you have built it already, now's the time to connect up with those people again and find out how they're doing and assist them. Jennifer Beale, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. You can check out her Summer Networking Bash event at summernetworkingbash.com. That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at saga960am.ca, and all my podcasts and videocasts are available on briancrombie.com, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and all those places where podcasts are available. Audible, Speakeasy, Spotify, etc. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great evening. Jennifer, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you then. Thank you.